Alright, so to begin this video, I want to show a post I saw, and I'm just going to keep it on the screen for a moment. Then I'll get more into it near the end of this video. But what I want to talk about first is what the Indiana Hoosiers football program was like during my prime of watching college football from the late 80s into the late 2000s. So when I began to watch college football in 1988, Indiana seemed to be an alright program. And the name I remember most during this period was running back Anthony Thompson. Thompson was extremely productive, earned numerous awards. He finished second in Heisman Trophy voting in 1989 while leading the nation in rushing. Moreover, Thompson, he left the Hoosiers being college football's all-time leader in rushing touchdowns. So from 1988 to 1991, Indiana, they went to 3 bowl games in a 4-year span, and once finished a season ranked in the top 25. After Anthony Thompson was drafted by the Cardinals in the second round in the NFL draft, Vaughn Dunbar was the next great back, and he had a tremendous 2-year run with the Hoosiers. In fact, Dunbar, he led the nation in rushing in 1991 and was then drafted in the first round by the Saints. The quarterback around this time was Trent Green, who would later become a 2-time NFL Pro Bowler, but to be honest, I don't remember Green too well throwing the ball for the Hoosiers. But Thompson and Dunbar, I do remember quite well. Anyways, in 1992, Indiana, they went 5-6. They did not make a bowl game, but then in 1993, the Hoosiers, they played in the Independence Bowl against Virginia Tech. For this game, Indiana, they got blown out 45-20. But with Tech's dominance in this game and seeing a team with neon orange pants, I then became a Virginia Tech Hokies fan. I love that color scheme, a maroon and orange. This would be the beginning of my Virginia Tech fandom, but on the other hand, this would be the start of a rough period for Indiana football, which I had no reason to think was coming. So the next item I want to mention about this period has to do with the Northwestern Wildcats. So I understood how bad, how horrible of a football program Northwestern was, mainly in the cellar of the Big Ten standings. And then in 1995, the Wildcats, somehow, they won the Big Ten and went to the Rose Bowl. Beginning in 1995, everything changed for Northwestern. They began to be competitive in the Big Ten with coaches like Gary Barnett, Randy Walker, and Pat Fitzgerald. Thus, what essentially happened, going forward, Northwestern would no longer be the losingest program, as that distinction would wind up going to Indiana. So let me show you Bill Mallory's coaching record at Indiana. And I'm using the records from Wikipedia because that format is the easiest to read. And like I said, in the late 80s and early 90s, Indiana, they seemed like an alright program. Then after Bill Mallory, Cam Cameron was the head coach of the Hoosiers. Here's Cam Cameron's record. At this time, the Hoosiers, they had a dynamic player that was fun to watch in quarterback Antoine Randall L., who would become a wide receiver in the NFL. Then after Cam Cameron was the Jerry DiNardo era, which was brutal for Hoosiers fans. DiNardo, he had some success previously with LSU, but was not able to get it going in Bloomington. Something I want to mention, around this time period with Cameron and DiNardo, because Indiana football was a program essentially being on the bottom of the Big Ten totem pole. Living in Big Ten country, so many of the Hoosiers games were played during that 11 a.m. window. And the games were produced by like Raycom or ESPN Plus, something like that, but they were shown on CBS as it wasn't a CBS production. Indiana was hardly playing in that 2:30 window or on Saturday nights. After Jerry DiNardo was Terry Hepner, and Hepner's big goal was to end Indiana's bowl game drought and get the Hoosiers to a bowl game. But sadly, Hepner, he passed away prior to the 2007 season due to complications from a brain tumor. Assistant coach Bill Lynch then be the next head coach for the Hoosiers, and in his first season, Indiana, they made a bowl game. They were able to accomplish what Terry Hepner dreamed of doing at Indiana. But then the Hoosiers, they had 3 consecutive seasons with 1-7 conference records. Also worth mentioning, in 2010, Indiana, somehow they lost to Wisconsin by a score of 83-20. The next Hoosier head coaches would then be Kevin Wilson and Tom Allen. And during this period, Indiana, they had 4 bowl losses, and one time they finished the season in the top 25, which is during the 2020 COVID year. Then in 2024, in came Curt Cignetti, who incredibly, he instantly made the Indiana Hoosiers title contenders. And because of Cignetti's success, Indiana was no longer college football's losingest program, as Northwestern would take back the title of having the most losses in college football history. So back to this, and I'm not going to talk about how ridiculous this post may seem or what's wrong with it. All I want to say is that after that Independence Bowl loss to Virginia Tech, I saw and witnessed how poor of a football program Indiana was. Hence, I would have never have guessed that Indiana would be national title contenders. Now I understand it's a quite different landscape, a greatly different era in college football in comparison to when I was a huge college football fan back in the day. Nonetheless, from what the Indiana Hoosiers program used to be to what it is now, it is extremely shocking what's going on in Bloomington with Curt Cignetti in charge. Thank you so much for your interest in this video. I greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. What are your thoughts about the Indiana Hoosiers football program in the 90s and 2000s?